Welcome back. So what we're going to be doing now is putting on a switch and a light. So we're going to start off with marking out the boxes. So I've already got my mark right over there. Okay, so and then the light is going to go up into the corner over here. So that is effectively done. Next thing would be mount the boxes. So we're going to have a switch, and I'm going to use a NewTek style box. This is an airtight box. I already have my mark there, so we will mount the box. Okay, and then the light is going to go up in the corner over here, right about there. So we'll mount that box. And this is a very similar style box to what we were already using, except this does not have the bracket. This is just an octagon box with two clamps. So if you got the one with the bracket in your kit, that is not a problem. Just use the one with the bracket. And again, when all these boxes are mounted, you want to mount them so that 1/2 inch of the box is sticking out beyond the stud to account for drywall that would be mounted. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is install some wire. But before we do that, I think I'll just get you to pause the video, and why don't you go mount your two boxes in the same spot I mounted mine. Okay, welcome back. So the next step is going to be installing some wire. So we're going to be going from this junction box all the way down through into this box, and then we're going to make a connection from this box into the box that will contain my light. This is a NewTek airtight box, and that's going to house this switch. So when I flick the switch, the light should turn on, just like a typical bedroom switch. You can think of it kind of like a valve for water flow. When the valve is open, okay, water can flow through. When the valve is closed, water doesn't flow through. Same idea with the switch, but for electricity. So we'll utilize the same holes that you drilled. Push some wire through. And with the previous lab, you would have gone through about 10 feet of wire. With this lab, you're going to go through the rest of the wire, the remaining 10 feet, give or take. So with this one, you just push the hole right up, or push the wire right through the foam, okay, and then you can kind of see the plastic clamp starting to open up, and you want to put roughly about 8 inches into the box, and then you don't really want to touch the clamp too much. These plastic boxes, the clamps are super weak, and it would end up breaking if you tampered with it too much. So we're good with that. Then on this side, we're going to connect this into that box. So I am going to loosen the clamp. And we will pop open, oops, wrong tool. We'll pop open, take out the little filler. And then we're going to pop our wire through. And always considering that I'm going to be stapling it here pretty quick, so that's why I left a little bit of a loop over there so I could staple it. And then on this side, I'm also going to leave a little bit of wire so that I can staple it right over here. And right over here as well. Okay, and then I'm happy with that, so I'm just going to trim this right about there, so I got 8 inches. And then the last bit of wire is going to go between the switch box and that light. So I'm just going to loosen the clamp off and pop out the knockout. And then we're going to run this. Oopsie, let's go right through here. There, so I'll just trim this so it's not as long. Okay, and I got a little bit of a loop here because I'm going to be securing it. So once I've got all my wire in place, I'm going to go and tighten the clamps down. Remember not to over tighten it, so 2 clamps that you got to tighten down. That'd be the one in this octagon box here, as well as retighten this clamp down here, and then we will be moving on to stapling. So I think what we're going to do is I'll have you pause your video, and then I'm going to get you to install your wire. Welcome back. So the next step is going to be stapling some cable down. So you have a couple S2 staples, and I just wanted to show you where the S2 staples are going to be used. So on this bottom wire here, would be an application for the use of an S2 staple. If you wanted to staple 2 cables, okay, this is where you could use an S2 to secure two cables, one on top of the other. I could have also put the cable beside, but I just wanted to show you an application of that. And then we'll staple the cable going into that octagon, and then now there's all sorts of different rules in regards to securing the wire, and that'd be something you would learn if you ever went to apprenticeship school. For example, when you're running a wire through a hole, technically that counts as securing the wire. So if you had to run a wire through 20 feet of studs, and the studs were spaced at 16 inches apart, you technically wouldn't have to staple anything because it would be 100% secured just by virtue of going through the holes in the studs. So, but that's something that you would learn at school. So I'm not hammering these right in because I'm going to eventually be taking these staples out, but I wouldn't be doing that anyway because I'm not looking at, I don't want to crush the wire. Okay, I just want to secure it in place temporarily. So I got all the staples in. Okay, and I'm going to do one more step here before I break you off to do the thing, to do your project, is I'm just going to strip the cable sheath. And this is going to be the exact same thing as the previous time you stripped cable sheath. Care has to be taken in this box. Some electricians, what they prefer to do is strip the wire before they put it into these NewTek boxes, but I've always been the opposite. I always put the cable in and then strip the wire, but it's kind of a preference. It doesn't really matter. one thing to note, you guys should be working with brand new tools, I would think. But if you're working with older tools, just make sure your blades are nice and sharp. It makes a world of difference when you're cutting sheathing. So I'm going to let you pause your videos, and then you can get to stripping all the sheathing, and then from there we'll go on to installing some switches and lights. Welcome back. So what we're going to start off first is the switch. So we're going to be focused on that New Tech airtight box. And the first thing I want to point out, okay, I got my switch right over here. If your switch has a green bonding screw, you have to take a bonding wire to it. That's the bare copper wire. So some switches don't have that green screw. It's just the brand of switch. Most of the new ones, though, would have this green screw. Now, the other part of the switch is you're going to see two terminals here. If it's a single, they call them a single pole switch. It's just one wire comes in, one wire goes out to the light. So the hot is coming in, that's where all your energy is. And then it goes to the switch, and then when you flick the switch, the energy transfers through the other terminal. Okay, it's just like a valve, that's all it is. Okay, now it doesn't matter which black wire goes to which terminal. All right, so that's the first thing to note. There's all sorts of different switches in the market. There's 3-way, 4-way switches. And those ones are going to, those are a little bit more, it does matter which conductor goes to which terminal in that case, but with a single pole switch, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to start off with bonding. Okay, so we're going to bond the wire. I'm going to take the copper wire from each cable and I'm going to put it underneath the green screw. So I'll try to do this so that you can see it. So you're going to take the copper wire, put a bend in it, wrap it around one screw. Just gotta line up the screwdriver and then try to hold it in place and tighten it. And then you're going to do that to the other screw. Okay. Once you've done that, I want you to trim one of the two out. And then after that's done, we're going to splice the two whites together. So I'm going to trim back some of it so that there's about 6 to 8 inches sticking out of the box, from the back of the box to the front. I'm going to strip back 3/4 of an inch from the front edge. Grab my linesman pliers, and then remember, you're going to do a right hand twist. I always cut the end off just to make sure that the two copper wires are cut evenly. We'll put a wire cap on. And then I think what we're going to do is we'll pause the video, get you to pause the video so that you can go and bond your box and put the wire cap on. Welcome back. So now I'll just tuck this wire in. Okay, and I'm going to prep the rest of my cables. So I like to cut them so that they're all at the same length, and I do that after I've bonded it. I'm going to put a curl on the bonding wire, and then I'm going to strip about 1/2 inch of insulation off the blacks and put a curl on those two as well. So what I should see is the two blacks that have curls on it, the bond that has a curl on it, and we're now ready to terminate to the switch. So I will take my Phillips or your #1 screwdriver, it doesn't matter, and let's do the bond first. You're going to take the bond and you're going to put the loop on so that as you turn clockwise, the wire tightens. Nice thing with these plastic boxes, I usually don't wrap tape around my devices because the box itself is plastic. So that's going to be one less step. Now, it doesn't matter which black you use. Either black can go to either terminal. So just pick one. And that's the switch been terminated. So I'm going to pause. I'll get you to pause on your end, and then you can terminate your switch. And then when you're done, we'll resume. Okay, so welcome back. It's going to tuck this switch into the box, and obviously you're going to want your switch orientated properly. So now, a lot of the new switches, what they say is they'll actually say top on the top of the switch, so you know that it's not going to be backwards. So you're gonna align it so the top is on the upper side. And if it doesn't say top, the best thing to do is there would be some writing on the switch. As long as you can read the writing, okay, the switch is going to be orientated properly. So I like to fold the wires and tuck them in. Okay, and then we'll tighten the 632 screws. That's the screws that are part of the switch. I like to push the switch in once I get the screw started. It just makes it easier to tighten the screw, I find sometimes. These are the little tricks that you learn. And if the Phillips is causing me a little bit of grief, go to the #1 Robertson, because I find that that's sometimes a better screwdriver for these screws. Put a level on your switch. Make sure it's nice and level. And if it's not level, you can loosen off one of these screws until it is level. There we go. And then we're going to start prepping the box for the light. So I'll just let you get that switch in. You can pause it on. Welcome back. Okay, so the first thing we'll do with the light is we're going to take the bonding wire, and there's 2 bonding screws here. It doesn't really matter which one you go to. You're going to bond the box with the bonding wire, but this time you're not going to cut the bonding wire. You're just going to trim it back so there's about 8 inches. And then what I like to do is I like to put a wire cap on that, and we're just going to tuck it in the box as far to the back as you can. And the reason for that is a lot of the light fixtures that we buy in the stores will actually have a prefabricated bonding wire that's part of the light fixture. So you're going to eventually connect the wire that's in the box to the bonding wire of the light fixture. Now, as for the other 2 wires, trim them back so that there's about 8 inches, and you're going to prep the cable or the wires just like you would prep the wires for a receptacle or a switch. Now this is going to be very specific type of prep for the Leviton lamp holder because it's got terminals on there. Most lights don't actually have terminals like this. They would have wires. So if you're going to put a normal light on, you wouldn't do this. This is only going to be for a Leviton lamp holder. So you'll take the white to one of the 2, doesn't really matter which one, silver screws. Okay, and then you're going to tighten that. And then you take the black to the brass screw, tighten that. And I'm using #1 Robertson. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold these wires in and secure the light. to the box. So there you can just slip the light on and rotate it, and it's going to lock in place. And then because these Leviton lamp holders are made of plastic, you're not going to want to tighten the box supporting screw too tight. And by the way, the screw I'm turning right now is considered an 832. Okay, so it's one size bigger than the screws for the receptacle. Okay, so don't tighten it too much, otherwise you end up cracking the lamp holder. And the last thing that you would do is you put a cover on the receptacle, and you put a light bulb in the lamp holder. A cover, I'm talking about a cover like this, on the switch, and a light bulb in the lamp holder, and then that would be it. That's where I'm going to leave it for this video. Okay, so welcome back. What I'm going to be doing is taking this cab tire with the 515P that you built, and I'm going to be inserting it into this box. This will eventually feed everything's power. We'll plug this into a receptacle. Okay, so what we're going to do is prep the end that we didn't put the plug on. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is taking a little bit of jacket off. And I just want to emphasize, I don't want anybody plugging anything in until there is somebody to verify your wiring. Electricity is very dangerous. A lot of people have been severely injured by powering up stuff that shouldn't be powered up. So do not plug this in until somebody has verified your wires. Okay, so this is how much cable I have exposed. I'm going to take off the paper part, and I'm just going to put it into that octagon box. Yes, come on. There we are. Quite often we're fighting with our cables. So take the paper out. Okay, there we are. And again, this is going to be feeding power. So what we're going to be doing is, you can't see it, but right over there, there's a knockout. They call it a knockout. If you push it in, you're going to see a piece of metal that knocks out right there. It's just a 1/2 inch circle. Okay, and I'll just peel the label away so that you can see where it is. It's a perfect circle in the box. You don't really want this label here because it affects the bonding continuity, so just take the label off. Okay, and this is where we're going to be using our 1/2 inch connector, and it's got 2 set screws. So we're going to take the cable that we prepped, and we're going to put it through the connector like so. And I want to see at least 1/4 inch of jacket projecting beyond the threaded part of the connector. Then we're going to tighten the 2 set screws. And this is a good way of securing a flexible cable to a box, if you ever had to do it. Just want to note that we're doing this for experimentation purposes. Flexible cable like I have in my hand is not something that you would ever install in a wall. Okay, it's just it's a little bit of a tricky experiment to be installing receptacles, switches, and lights, ultimately smoke detectors. We need to supply power. So this is the easiest way to supply power. Again, this wouldn't be typically installed in a wall. It's an extension cord wire. So we're just going to tighten this. Okay, and then just give it a tug. Now there is a locking ring, and that's this piece, and it just threads right on. We're going to take that locking ring out, and then from the back side, I'm going to put these 2 cables, oh my god, these 3 cables through, and then you get the threaded part that goes through the middle. We'll put the lock ring back on, and we're going to tighten the lock ring onto the connector. Okay, and then what I like to do is I like to turn the lock ring to the right while turning the connector to the left, and that gives me a real nice tight connection. Then this cable here, what we'll do is we're just going to take a staple and staple it to the side so that there is no pressure on the cable. And I just stapled it onto the side with an S1 staple. And then we got our connector here. We're not going to make any connections here yet. Okay, you're not going to plug this into any wall sockets, okay, because we have a lot more that we're going to be adding onto this. We're going to end up putting a switch, a light, a doorbell, and a smoke detector. So this is just stage one.